Hey everyone, it's Rob Adams of the Actors Workshop, and you are in the Abyss. Well, today is kind of a special episode for me because I'm going to talk a little bit of the history of the Actors Workshop. This past Tuesday, the 26th, was the 6-year anniversary of RJ's passing, and actually, if you go back to this, the beginning of this channel. Before it was actually called In the Abyss. The first ever video I posted was something I did for the Coach's Corner, which was through the Virtual Channel Network, which was something that we did, specifically my dad, for that channel. But I took over for a short while until they got rid of the channel. But it kind of gives you a look into the making of the movie he was in the middle of making when he passed. It was his dream project. It was something he had written, he was directing, and they went to this battlefield in Pennsylvania to film it. And like I said, if you look at the video and you see the tanks, it was going to be a pretty grand project, and he was really excited about it. So, you know, from the standpoint of him doing what he loved when he went, it makes it bittersweet. On the flip side, it would have been interesting to see the whole project come to fruition and see how that would have turned out. But anyways, I was talking to the class the other day, and I was telling them how proud RJ would have been seeing these students that he had never met before, just watching them work and watching the progression and all of those kinds of things. And it just kind of made me think for this video, you know, I'm going into my 30th year of coaching acting in a couple months, and being around this workshop since I was 8, 9 years old, and seeing the progression, and all the different people that have come and gone, and the mentalities and the way that, you know, the evolution of the workshop, etc. I thought it would be neat for the people who watch this and the students who watch this and the people who are involved to kind of understand and get a feel. It was very different in the early days. The mentality of actors was very different. It was fast. How fast can I learn this, get out there and do it, and become movie stars? And patience was not a virtue for those people. And don't get me wrong, a lot of those people still follow me on Facebook. I'm friends with them. They watch these videos, and there's a lot of really good people that I knew through the years that have come through the workshop. And then there's a bunch of pains in the asses that came through the workshop. I don't really have that many pains in the asses anymore. So, you know, I don't have to deal with that. And right now in the workshop, I don't have any of them. So that's a great thing. But I'm speaking more of the early years before I was an acting coach, when I'm talking about the fast mentality. But it was also the late 70s, early 80s, you know, when really being a film actor was the biggest thing in the world. It was really peaking, and everybody started to get involved in it. And back then it was easier to get in the unions. It was easier to do certain things. So the hustle and bustle of the industry was very different back then. But I think where the actors really missed the mark was being too fast, right? That they didn't really master their craft. They didn't really get good at what they were going to do. They just wanted to go from 0 to 60 and become movie stars. And it really just doesn't work that way. You know, we talk about it all the time. This is a multi-billion-dollar industry. You don't just show up and people go, oh, that's the one. I discovered that person. There's just too many people that have more experience and who are more talented right now, or you know, whatever it is, you know, that is, you know, that they're not going to just discover somebody. And don't give me that stuff, you know, well, what about those stories that, you know, we hear about so-and-so being discovered? That is publicity. That is selling. They're not going to invest millions of dollars into a project, into a person, into an actor or an actress, based on that's the one. It's just not. We don't hire people that way. We don't look at someone and go, you know what, that person really seems like they'd be a great doctor. Forget about going to school and forget about mastering their craft. Let's just bring them in and let them do brain surgery. We don't do that. No other profession in the world thinks that way. Only the acting profession. right? Meaning the amateur actors think that they're going to be discovered. You don't get discovered, you get found. And the way you get found is by repping a brand. The way you rep a brand is you really get good at your craft, right? So that was, I think, one of the biggest things I would see in the early years was everybody just trying to jump on the fast track because there was opportunities to do such, and it just doesn't work. And it didn't work for them. And it doesn't work now. It's different because it is tougher to get into unions. It is tougher in different aspects, but it is also easier. There's more availability of work. Auditioning now, you don't have to drive to LA to do an audition. You just film it and send it in. There's more opportunities that way, and so they're willing to see more actors now than they were then, because back in the day, I'm calling in 100 actors. I have to sit through watching 100 actors. Well, now I can get 500 submissions on, an email, and I can watch at my own leisure. I can watch 10 seconds here, and if I like it, great. If not, I move on, where I have to sit through each person's reading. So they can be a lot quicker from the business standpoint now, which gives us as actors more opportunity. But from the standpoint of the evolution of the workshop, as many of you know, my dad's acting coach in New York was Meisner, and then his acting coach in LA was Conrad, who was a teacher, Charles Conrad, who was a teacher of Meisner's in New York until he came out to LA and then taught it out here. And then my dad, when he came from New York to LA, studied under Conrad. And when the workshop first started, it was the Meisner technique. And it still is, but it's an evolution of that. Because as it got more and more about being yourself in the situation and living the moments and stuff like that, my dad started coining the term common sense acting. Use your common sense, right? Well, what's your common sense? It's your instincts. Your instincts give you your common sense. Your common sense give you your instincts, right? And we use that all the time, right? And sometimes it's a hit, sometimes it's a miss, right? But the reasoning that we rely on that is it's never wrong. And we've talked about that on these videos before, that your instincts are never wrong. Your brain can be wrong because you can overthink things, but your instincts are your instincts, and we rely on them because of that. Our common sense is our common sense. And if you're not using your common sense, that's when people go, come on, man, use your common sense. Right? We all know that, especially if you have kids, or if you are younger and you've heard your parents say that. That's what it's about, right? And now when I look at my actors, and we think about last week's video talking about being authentic and honest and real and truthful, that really is where the workshop has grown. Now, has it left the Meisner technique? Well, what was the Meisner technique? It was the repeat drill, right? What was the repeat drill? Matching the other person, conversation, playing off each other, something we do naturally, we do instinctively. Meisner was teaching it to get the real person, because up until Meisner, all acting was method acting. It was creating a character, becoming a character, performing a character. And what Meisner said was, well, instead of it being created, how about it's being you in the situation? So these different drills that he would do, and the way he would get actors to use each other to be real in the situation, basically came from, like I said, the repeat drill. However they did it. We do it as a shirt exercise, but there are different ways of doing it. Fast forwarding to now, when we talk about using your common sense and we talk about being truthful and honest in the situation, you're still using yourself in the situation. But what's hard about that is we know what we know. And now we're supposed to be put in situations where you wouldn't know what a cell phone is. You wouldn't know what electricity is. You wouldn't know what generated heat or air or anything like that was. You would live off the land. You would burn candles at night. You would make fires for warmth, and you would deal. You would survive. When you're going backwards and you understand modern times, and you're trying to put it and trying to erase that when you're trying to live in earlier times, it's hard, because back then those people didn't know. They dealt. They survived. They lived. And as actors, that is, once again, that part of the acting is living as you in the situation without knowing anything else. Just knowing this is the way life is, and then dealing, believing in what you believe, right? And that's another hard part. If you're Catholic and you believe in something, we're working on things with, the Vikings and stuff like that, where, the English were Christian and believed in God, and the Vikings were, they believed in their gods, right? And so they were considered pagans or heathens or whatever. And, what if someone like me who grew up Catholic and believes in God is hired as a Viking, right? I'm supposed, I guess I could be a Christian monk in one of these things, right? Or I could be, an older Viking, grow the beard and do that. But can I believe in a situation, live truthfully in a situation as a pagan, as a heathen, as somebody who believes in gods, the Norse mythology gods, Odin and those kinds of things, as believable and realistically as the things that Rob as a person really believes? Well, that's my job, and that's really where the evolution of the workshop has come. It still has the base of where it all started. You have to listen, you have to watch the other actor, you have to play off each other, you have to use each other, you have to do all of these things. Acting is reacting, all of that. But can you learn that part of the technical craft and then start applying the part of yourself in the craft, truthfully, honestly, etc., and be able to be in situations and deal? And to me, that's the fun part of it, right? I've asked my students before, I asked them this week, if you could time travel to a different time and not worry about dying in that time or having anything happen to you in that time, and you guarantee you'll come back, would you do it? And everybody says yes. Well, that's what acting is. We're time travelers with no regard. We just go live life. You have to learn to deal, and it's a mentality. I say it all the time in class, change your mentality, right? Change the way you think. That's the fun part of acting, because it's not changing you, it's just changing the way you think. And in a sense, I've used this example before, when we change jobs, we adapt to those jobs. We change the way we think, but we don't change us, right? And I think that is really where, in all the years thinking back to the workshop, we could talk about the technology stuff. In the early years, we had the 3 giant color cameras and had to run the cables to the control room and film and all to do that stuff, to a point where you could take an iPhone 12 and the video camera is high tech as any camera basically, and then film it, right? And have that, that part of it has changed. The Red camera that we use once in a while when we're filming things with the classes is higher level than, of course, those cameras back in the late 70s, early 80s. So, the technical part of it and the ability to be able to film different ways and like I said, the email and all that kind of stuff, and sending in, your clips, uploading clips to the, Actors Access, etc. That's where things from that aspect have changed. But from the acting standpoint, it's still, like I said, the base. But where it's really changed is I feel like I put a lot more on my actors to live and deal. This is the situation you're in, now deal with it and see where it goes and be truthful and honest. And I think that where the actors are different today compared to, and I'm talking as a whole, not necessarily individuals, so if you're an older student who's not in the workshop anymore and you're watching this, you're going, wait a second, Rob, I did that. I'm not talking to you, all right? I'm talking as a group. And I would say where the groups of classes are different now, like I said, is they're more locked in, they're more dedicated, they're more driven to really learn and master the craft before they're out there going to chase jobs. And they're not willing to settle or sacrifice, doing webisodes or movie shorts or any of these things. They're really targeting network and real film and real TV, because they want to work in the big leagues. And I think that as a whole, that's where the mentality is, that my actors want to really master the craft, and they really want to get good at living as themselves truthfully in these situations and to be able to deal with it. And like I said, I've had a lot of great students through the years. There was a lot of great people in the class when I was in the class. But the majority, I would say today, it's not even close. And if RJ was here today, and I know he looks down at the workshop and he's seeing everything and he's viewing it from above, I know when he watched, if he was here in person, he'd be thrilled with the actors. He'd be thrilled with the work. He'd be thrilled with the consistency, the dedication, the drive, the determination, all of those things. And it makes me feel good when we sit there and reflect. Because I often think, when I'm watching a sporting event, what would my dad think right now, seeing Tom Brady get to his 10th Super Bowl, or what would he think with this? When the Blues won the Stanley Cup, oh my God, he would be elated. We always talked about, would this ever happen? And when it did, in 2019, once again, I know he's seen it from above, but it'd be interesting to see him in person and what he would think. And it goes the same for the Actors Workshop. Is if he was here today, I know, because not only was he my dad, but I worked with him for 24 years. I knew my dad just as well as anybody. I know he would be thrilled. He would be on cloud nine with the results of the work and the actors were getting. So, the Actors Workshop has a 40-year history, and it's rich with a lot of, great moments, and, it's ups and downs. That's part of having a business, and different people coming and going through the years. But I think right now it is at its peak. And my goal is to keep it at that peak, adding new students that fit that mold to keep driving that peak, but then also the people that are, taking those next levels in their work, staying up on that peak. And that's what drives me, and that's what keeps me determined, and it keeps me excited about the things I do. And, I don't want to leave out the fact that, in the last year, Zoom is a little bit of a game changer. It allows actors who are not able to come into class to be able to get their work in and do things and be consistent in their work. And the stuff they can do on Zoom, with the backgrounds and the filters and all that kind of stuff, bring a reality in a different way. And it's a cool way as an acting coach to really watch their eyes in a different way. It's like watching them on film all the time, but it's live. So all of these aspects has really, like I said, catapulted the workshop in my mind to a different level. And my goal for all of you, and your goal has to be also, let's keep it at that level and keep building, because that's going to make everything you do, yourself, the people around you, all of us, better. So, once again, in this reflection after 6 years, wondering, I don't think this way, but just sitting here thinking about it right now, wondering 6 years ago where we were at, and then looking at where we're at now, if I would have thought that we would be at this spot, I'm not sure, but it's past my wildest dreams, and it's been some of the best work I've ever seen in the history of the workshop, as long as I've been a coach, the last 29, 30 years. And it's going to continue to get better, because that's my goal, and hopefully it's all your goal. If you are not a student, I highly recommend that you come in, reach out to me, talk to me, and let's get you on a career path, because this is a career. And I'll leave it with this thought. I tell my kids this all the time. I tell my students this all the time, and I live by this, right? There are two types of jobs, two types of workers in our world. People have jobs and people have careers. Most people have jobs. My goal is to have careers for you guys, right? That's why I say a career path, right? I'm not happy with, ooh, you got an audition. That's your job. You're supposed to get an audition. That's why you're doing what you do, right? Ooh, I got a job. That's what you're supposed to do, right? We don't applaud a doctor. Ooh, you got a white coat. We're happy that you graduated. We're happy you did the things you need to do, but that's what you work toward. That's what we're working toward, as a career, right? When you're making your movies, when you're making your TV shows, when you're doing your stuff, right? And that's never going to end. We're going to keep pushing those career paths. And if you want to be a part of it, jump on the train and get going, because it's passing you by, right? And the people that are already on it, stay on it and keep pushing it, all right? Anyways, just a quick ramble, I guess, of thoughts that I had during the week this week, when it came to thinking about RJ 6 years later, and where the workshop is. And when I say 6 years later, I mean 6 years past his death, and where the workshop is today compared to where it was. Of course, we're always thinking of RJ. He's always around. You can, when you go into the workshop, you can feel it. But like I said, I had a lot of thoughts and ramblings that, I didn't have this channel a year ago when, the 5th anniversary was up. So I thought it was a perfect time to kind of just talk about all the thoughts and feelings that I had. And hopefully, it gives you guys a little insight of where I am as your acting coach, and how I feel and think about you guys and where I think you can be. And I'm going to, once again, continue to push you to those points. Anyways, have a great weekend. I will see all of you next week in class or on the Zoom. And if you're not there, once again, please reach out, subscribe, leave your comments, and we'll see you soon.